everyone, welcome to another episode of Stories with Shomik. If you're listening for the first time, welcome. If you've listened to the first episode, welcome back. We read, watch, and hear stories of human triumph in sports, business, entertainment, life. They're inspiring, always make us feel good. But most times you don't really know the person. They're a celebrity, they're famous, you know. But there are so many fantastic stories among the people you know. Most don't talk about it because they're shy or don't think their stories are worth being told. I respectfully disagree. I am surrounded by a lot of cool and very impressive people who do very, very impressive things, and I insist that these stories are heard by more people. So our guest today is Naman Bajaj. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks a lot, man. It's great to be here. I've never been on this side of the podcast, so thanks for having me.
Well, as a host, you've been killing it. So now we're going to see how good you are as a guest. So
Okay,
now,
I no pressure taken.
no pressure at all. Awesome. So Naman runs Not My Problem. It's a website dedicated to talking about companies and founders that are working to save the planet, that are literally making the world a better place. And I love the way you've described it on your website. So I'm just going to read it out as is. Um, the description is, and I absolutely love it. It's uncovering stories of startups across the world that wouldn't have been founded if the founders had shrugged off these problems as someone else's. And he also helps brands in the sustainability space with their long form content strategy. So think newsletters, articles, and blogs. Um, Welcome, Naman. I'm super pumped about this episode because, sustainability, saving the world, these are all things every human being on the planet has thought about at some point. But
Right.
most, I'm very much part of the majority here, have been like, but it's too much to do. I can't do anything. So tell me, tell me, what got you involved and what made you start documenting these stories?
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, for having me. You have been a great support throughout this journey. So thanks
I'm
for
a fan.
that. And yeah, so this goes back to you know during MBA, post MBA, when I was at Schulich. So I came to Canada in May 2019, and graduated somewhere in mid 2020. So I, for a fact, I mean, I wasn't sure when I started doing my MBA that what I wanted to do after that. So I did not have a list of things that I wanted to accomplish post MBA, but I did know what I didn't want to do. The there were a couple of things that I was pretty sure of, that I don't want to do a certain kind of job or be part of a certain kind of company. And nothing against those jobs and companies, just like it's not for me. I wouldn't do justice to them or myself by being there. So typical, like, most of the people after MBA, they choose to go into banking, consulting, or work with bigger corporate sectors. It's okay. Again, nothing against them, but that was not for me. So I knew, like, banking, consulting, Amazon, Walmart jobs are are not for me. I won't do good there. So that didn't leave me with a lot of choices. So, and then on the other hand, before starting my MBA, I had worked for a couple of startups back home in India, and that that always excited me. Working for an early stage startup, it was taxing, but it always excited me. So I thought, let's get back into the startup world. But this time I had a filter. I was like, it shouldn't be just any startup. It should be a startup that is doing something good for the planet or humanity, or some in the social impact space. So those were kind of my loose filters. So with these filters, I was looking for a job, post MBA in mid 2020. I spoke to a lot of people. They were right in the middle of the pandemic, right? Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
So perfect timing. It couldn't be better. So so yeah, so a lot of I had some great conversations with founders and people who were working in this space. But as you mentioned, the pandemic had hit. Most of the startups had stopped hiring. All those conversations eventually died. So then I had to kind of re-strategize what I wanted to do. There were certain privileges that were working in my favor. One was that I had my PR, so I wasn't in a rush to, get a job to maintain my visa or for, other legal formalities. So that was one. Second was I did not have student debt, so I used some of my savings, and my parents helped me a lot to pay for my, the tuition fee. And having a PR also helped reduce the tuition fee. So I did not have the pressure to pay back the student debt. So these were the privileges that I had at that point in time. So that helped me, kind of not rush into things. And since I didn't get a full time job, I thought, okay, let's try to get some contract roles with
Yeah.
these startups. If they are not okay with hiring full time people, maybe I can help 4 or 5 startups on a part time contract role, and then
Right.
earn enough to pay my rent and other basic expenses for a few months. So
Yeah. Paying Toronto rent in itself is a full-time job. So yeah, that's fair.
right. Yes, you need like a couple of gigs to pay the rent in the city. Yeah. Yeah. So that time, but yeah, I mean, it was a good idea. Like, get some contract part-time roles and not being bound by one full-time opportunity and all of that. In theory, it was great, but then how do you execute it? Like, why would someone hire uh, an MBA, a recent MBA grad who had moved to the country 1 year ago, and give them, like, a part-time contract role in the middle of the pandemic? Like, why would anyone do that? Especially this is Canada, so if someone is outside Canada, there's a thing, like for newcomers, there's always a bias against them, against
Yeah.
hiring them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
For context to
mhm,
the listener,
yeah.
there's this, and I experienced this as well. Obviously, it's this want for Canadian experience, uh, and I absolutely call bullshit on it, because you're inviting people from all over the world to come to the country, and then you don't want to employ them because they don't have Canadian experience, which is a load of rubbish, because these are people from all over the world, highly qualified, and at the end of the day, isn't Canadian experience the experience of the world? We are a super diverse society, but for whatever reason, it doesn't extend to the first job in the country. But yeah, anyway, that's a
Yeah.
rant for a completely different episode, because I can go
I
on
know.
for like
Yeah,
time.
we could have multiple episodes on just that.
But
So,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, so I started thinking, what would help me build a network and probably get a few contract part-time roles to keep me afloat in this country. So then this idea of starting a podcast series came up. This started in July 2020, and I thought, why not interview some of the Canadian founders who are in the social impact or sustainability field. Talk to them for like 20-25 minutes. It would be free PR marketing for them and a
right.
good networking exercise for me. At least if they can't give me a role right away, maybe in the future, if they have something, they would at least remember me. So that was
For
the
sure.
selfish motive behind that. Yeah.
It's
But
pretty smart for both.
it was, yeah. So I started recording it in July 2020. Started reaching out to founders in this space, asked them for just 20-25 minutes of their time, and promised them that I would record it, edit it, publish it, promote it, and do all of that. And all they need to give me is just 20-25 minutes of their time. That's it. So
Yeah.
the hit rate was pretty good. Obviously, like if I reached out to 10 people, 8 or 9 accepted that, and it
80
sorry,
conversion is
yeah, yeah,
80%.
easily. Yeah, it was 80% easily. And then yeah, I decided mid 2020, did around, I think, 50 odd episodes of this.
Mhm.
And that went on till end of 2020. While I mean, the idea, as I mentioned, was to network and um get some paid gigs.
Yeah.
That did not really happen in 2020, like for the next 5-6 months after I started it. But the good part was that I learned about this space from
Yeah.
these conversations. So my my first this was kind of a primary research for me in the field of sustainability, because these founders used to talk about the problems and then the solutions that they are building. So that was the first time I was introduced to, like, how big the problem of climate change is, like
Right.
what's happening around the world. I had no idea about it, before these conversations. So I think uh, I could not distribute the content that I had created very well, but I think the biggest learner from those 50 conversations was me. That's how I learned about the space. Yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
so that yeah.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that was the starting point. So that happened till end of 2020, when I stopped doing it because uh, other things started.
Fair, fair. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
honestly, this is something that they used to tell us at business school. And for context, Naman and I went to Schulich. Uh, that's how we know each other. Uh, Different years, but that's how we sort of knew of each other. And that was actually advice given to us by the career people: is to reach out. It's a good way to create content, get your name out there, at the same time learn about the space you're interested in. And none of us really did it, so good on you for actually powering through on that. And
Thanks.
honestly, 50 episodes is incredible, because when decided I'm going to try running a podcast, I'm a numbers guy and I love looking at stats. And it said that if you make more than 3 episodes, you're in the top 20% of content creators in the podcast space, because most people drop off.
Oh, yeah.
And you've
Okay.
done 50. So that, I don't know
Yeah.
what that is, but I'm guessing it's like the top 1 or 2% when it comes
Hmm.
to pushing out content. So that is
Yeah.
incredibly impressive, and I hope you're proud of it.
I am definitely. Thanks a lot. I still remember those days when I did not have any help for editing. I used to record those videos and then go to iMovies and, like, learned about editing in iMovies, adding subtitles and thumbnails, and how to upload things on YouTube, and how to extract audio and put it on the different podcast platforms, and then how to take out snippets, share it on social
Yeah,
media and all. I think all that is uh, it didn't take off, but that's okay. I learned a lot, when now I'm kind of restarting the podcast series now, but this time I'm, like, learning more about different platforms before hitting the publish button.
yeah,
And I'm outsourcing, like, some editing work, and other things related to publishing a video. And it helps me, when you're outsourcing, I think you should have done things yourself to understand what exactly you are outsourcing.
for
So
sure.
when I look back, yeah, that really helped. uh, Yeah, but yeah,
I'm
it was
very
a great
much
experience.
doing things myself phase,
Yeah,
figuring out how things work. And for
exactly.
listeners, like if they want to listen to your podcast, assuming like okay, so for context, the way I look at this podcast, if we have four listeners, that's great. If there's more than four, it's a bonus. This is more for me to document stories of all the amazing people that I know.
Right.
So if there are people who are listening to this podcast and they want to find yours, what is it called? What platforms can they find it on?
Yeah. So the initial one that I ran in 2020, it was called Epic, and there is. I mean, if they want to go through those videos, they are on YouTube. They used to be on a website as well, but I have kind of rebranded everything, and I think we'll come back to it later in the episode. But it's called Epic. You might not, if you just search Epic on YouTube, you might not find it for obvious reasons. But then if you search like Epic with my name, sustainability stories, try a few keywords, then then you might find them. Yeah,
Amazing.
but
So
it's
lesson
yeah,
number one, SEO.
yeah,
We have to
SEO.
optimize for it.
You
And
have to. It's
I'll
yeah,
also link to the podcast to your podcast in the show notes, like on the YouTube
sure.
channels and stuff. So
Yeah,
we'll do that.
yeah, yeah.
But
Awesome.
yeah, that's very cool. So one of the reasons I have a lot of respect for Naman and for what he does is it's very easy to complain. It's easy to say, global warming is fucking us up. There's all this waste. We're not recycling. Uh, we're losing, our deforestation is at an all-time high. And, all of this is, it's easy to say and it's easy to keep saying it at a party, on social media. And the fact is, if you post the negative stuff on social media, it just spreads faster because of the way the algorithms are structured. And also, not just the algorithm, that's the stuff that people engage with. It's easy, we're doom scrolling, what's another post? And for whatever reason, as a society, we take pessimists more seriously than an optimist. It's easy to give in. Just say, I can't do anything. And a lot of people do feel strongly about making the planet better. But very few, number one, know what to do to make it better. And because we don't know what to do, and what are the small steps that people can take, it's more like, whatever, it is what it is. And we need all kinds of support and work to make the earth better for us and for future generations. And by following Naman, I've learned so much about sustainability and the companies that are actually doing the work to make things right. And that is why, like, you said it didn't quite take off, but just so you know, if not for you and not my problem, I'd absolutely say, yeah, it's not my problem. The earth is dying and move on. I'm generally a glass half full and, I'm fairly optimistic. But reading your content, like your newsletter and every Friday and your LinkedIn posts, like I am actually more confident on humanity now than I was before because we'll find a way, one way or another. And there are people who are committed, smart, and focused on doing it. And so, just so you know, like while you said it didn't quite take off, it has had an impact and it continues to make an impact. You probably just didn't realize it.
That means a lot, man. Thanks for saying that. And yeah, I mean, that was I never actually I think started it with that intention. I think the intention was a very selfish one in the beginning, at least when I was doing the podcast. Uh, learning about the space, getting a gig, and all of that. But yeah, I think it has kind of, at least, it has impacted 100, 150 people, and I am really really proud of that. If those 100, 150 people are talking about it in their circles, that's like enough of an impact. And
I talk about it all
uh
the time.
awesome.
I'm a
Yeah.
genuinely a big fan because I I like seeing stories of optimism. I like, because they're happening. It's not that it isn't happening, but it's just
Yeah,
the doom and gloom that takes over our feed. And
exactly.
every single good story that says, hey, yes, it's a problem, but there are people working on it, that makes me feel very good. So I have a question. Like, the current maybe unfair generalization is working in sustainability equates to working in the not profit space. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
not a very viable career path. There's not enough money in it. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is still a general notion that you can either earn well or do good. We
Yeah,
can't, like, do good and earn well at the same time. Uh, it's changing for sure. I mean, there are a lot of communities, a lot of startups that are actually just working in getting more people involved in the climate tech space. And whatever newsletter, whatever stories I have published in the newsletter, i I think less than 1% of them are not for profit companies who are working in this space. And I think I have published more than 250 stories, for sure. And I would have gone through like thousands of stories to publish these 250 stories. And all of them are, like, in very well in the capitalist system, that they're there to make profit, but they're doing good by while making profits. And I don't blame them for making profits. Like, the whole system, you have to be part of the system to kind of
absolutely.
bring a change. You can't do it from outside and say,
Yeah,
like, this is my company and this is the system and company are separate, and I would change the system through my
yeah,
company, which is not even part of the system. So I have full respect for people who are taking a for profit route to change the system. It's
yeah,
changing. The general notion, I think, yeah, it would still take time, but I would encourage people to, and we can put it in the notes of the podcast as well, to go through some of the uh, job boards that are dedicated to the climate tech space. And there are jobs across the country. It's not like only across the world. It's not like just in North America there are climate tech jobs, or Europe is ahead of North America, so there are more jobs in Europe and there's nothing in India. It's not like that. India is, in fact, like way ahead of what we think of or we can imagine. There are like a lot of climate tech startups coming up there as well. I think it's just about once you go through these job boards, or you become part of the Slack channels, or read up a bit on it, you would realize that how fast is this space changing. And with the recent layoffs, I think a lot of people are taking a step back and rethinking what they want to do with those 40-50 hours they spend on something in a week.
for sure.
So, and having said that, I think job is, or what you work on is one of the biggest impact that you can create in this space as an individual.
Yeah,
Because you're not doing it alone. You're part of a company, and you're contributing, and you're working to improve the planet or humanity for 8 or 9 hours a day. So that's the biggest impact that you can have.
I love that. I love that. And are there any particular job boards that come top of mind for you that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, there is I think there's terra.do, so terra.do, that's doing a great job. There is climatebase.org. I think that's a good one. There is a big Slack community which is called Work on Climate, and I think they have a website as well. So they have a very active very active, like, job posting board. And there are a couple of this climate base weekly, I think they have a weekly newsletter as well. So there's a lot that is happening in this space. You just have to, like, just if you become the part of this ecosystem, you would keep discovering things,
Right,
which is the best part. Yeah.
right. That's awesome. Yeah, I love it. Like, I'm fully aligned with you. You know, the way for companies in this space for it to be sustainable in the sense of its
Yeah.
own lifetime and to keep
Right.
growing is they need to turn a profit. They need to be able to reinvest that money back in, and it needs to
Yeah.
be part of the system, as you said, because uh, thoughts on capitalism is again a different story, different
Yeah, I know.
uh,
Yeah.
episode. But you're right. Like, you can't change that structure, but you need to find ways to grow within the system. And uh, I'm going to be honest. Like, it is a space that I've looked at as an outsider and been, oh, that's cool. And the more I followed your stories, I'm like, oh God, there's some really cool stuff going on. Like, I
Hmm.
remember reading about there was one post you had on a company that's replacing packaging,
Hmm.
and it was I forget what it was based on. It was basically one of the plant extracts that generally goes to waste.
Yeah, there are a couple of them. One is, I think, in Cambodia, which is using cassava, which is a root
Yes,
extract
yes,
to make those. Yeah, so it's replacing plastic by that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I remember reading that, and I was like, okay, you know what? These are straight up, good solutions, and in terms of pricing, it is comparable to plastic, and those are the things that make a difference, right? Because sure, you can have, and I'm just going to use shampoo as an example. I don't know why that's the first one I thought of, but there's
Yeah,
regular PNG shampoo, and then
right.
there's another shampoo right next to it. Probably not, because PNG pays a lot of money for that shelf space. But as an example, it's
Yeah.
another shampoo which is, better ingredients, sustainably sourced, better packaging. But the problem is it's twice the price.
Hmm.
And that is where it becomes a challenge, because there are people who
Yeah.
want to use better products that are better for them,
Right.
better for the planet, but
Yeah.
it's out of their budget. And
Hmm.
that is where being part of the system comes into play, because the more
Hmm.
they're able to generate sales on a premium price, they're going to be able to introduce better pricing and
Right.
uh, finally be in range of competition. And that has been my point every time I've had a conversation in at a dinner party or wherever around how do we save the planet, which as
Hmm.
lofty as it sounds, if we don't do it, who will?
Yeah.
And it's always boiled down to it needs to be on a price point that's affordable to the regular customer. If it's a comparable solution and it's not at a premium, I absolutely will go ahead and buy the thing
Yeah.
that's better for me and
Yeah.
the planet. But if it's out of my budget, like, then I need to feel really strongly about that particular line of products where
Hmm.
it makes sense. So
Right.
all this to say, like, in terms of pricing, that, and you obviously know this space better, is, are you seeing prices get more competitive across the board?
Yeah. I mean, great point. So, I think you know, the macro word for all of this pricing and other things is convenience, basically. So you cannot
Yeah,
offer, something which is more sustainable, better for the planet, but take the convenience out of the product. So if a better brand is not available in the stores from where I'm shopping, I would not purchase it. If I have to go to, an individual website to purchase your product and then pay something extra on shipping and then wait for 10 days to get the product, some people do that. And it's not easy, but when you're
I,
used to like next day shipping
one
and
early
few,
adopters, right? The ones
they
who
are
are
the early
doing,
adopters. Yeah,
but how do we
they are
get
the
it
early
to
adopters.
us?
Right, right. So, I think a lot of these smaller players that are coming in the field of in the or building products that are better for the planet, they realize like how important it is to make their product being available more conveniently, or it's in the same shelf space as the other products that are coming from bigger companies or better known brands. So I think that's changing, and it's also changing in the store. So like in Canada, if you I don't know if you have been to Sobeys in the recent past, like they they have this now, a natural foods section where they keep uh, food and other products from more ethical and conscious brands. So I think it's changing. It's not changing at the pace that it should be. uh Prices, obviously, I get it. I totally get it that if something is you have to pay 2x for something which is better for the planet, as an individual you would not do it. Another aspect that I have seen coming into play is an individual would be ready to pay a premium on a product if it's about their health. So in case, like, if I tell you, Shamik, go and buy this shampoo instead of your usual shampoo because it's better for the planet, it would create less waste, less pollution, it won't end up in the oceans or landfill, you would be like, again, not my problem, if everyone else is not doing it, why should I? Like, how would just one bottle make a difference? But then if I tell you, hey, Shamik, this is a shampoo that you have been using till now, and there are certain ingredients in it that are carcinogenic, or it might impact your reproductive system, but there is another alternate that is available in the market which is 1.5x the price of your usual brand, but it contains like clean ingredients, it has been certified by certain regulatory bodies, and they say, and they have tested all the ingredients and they are clean, they won't impact your health, and all of that. Then might think, okay, yeah, I can pay more for a product that is better for my health. So I've seen like brands positioning themselves on those lines that it's better for you and the planet. So okay, even if you don't care about the planet, that's okay, but you care about your health, right? So you would buy something that's better for you. So, but yeah, I mean, it's hard, honestly, for smaller brands to reach a place where they can compete on the pricing with a brand that
Yeah,
has been there for 100 plus years. But yeah, I think these small changes could bring in the change.
for sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely a chicken and egg situation. Small
Hmm.
brands don't have the scale to offer competitive pricing, but they need people to buy at this price to get to scale where they can start being competitive in terms of pricing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's frustrating. I mean, sometimes like my partner and I, we try to buy from good, conscious, sustainable brands, but with the cost of living going up so high, especially here,
yeah,
sometimes you're like just frustrated. Like, why should we? We're not perfect, so why should we? Like, what difference would it make? So, d- doesn't matter that I'm in this field, and it doesn't mean that I don't ask my that question to myself, like, what would one box make a difference or one bottle make a difference? I do every day, and sometimes I just go with the usual cheap brands. I mean, I can't afford it. So
Yeah.
it's not it's a problem that all of us are going through. So you are not alone in this journey, but do whatever you can, at least,
Yeah.
or at least talk to people in your network about, these brands. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't have to be perfect. It's the little
Yeah.
things that snowball into big things. Like something as simple as, you know, carrying your own bag when you go shopping
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
opting for a paper bag or a plastic. Plastic is an absolute no-no. Try and avoid it as much as
Yeah.
possible. But having said that, there are days when I and I'm pretty diligent with it most days. But on some days,
Hmm.
I'm on my way back from office. I need to pick
Right.
up some groceries. I don't have my bag. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, you know what? It's fine. I'm
It's
I'm
okay.
just gonna take
It's fine.
one plastic bag, and you know the Indian
Exactly.
way. We don't throw our plastic bag. We keep
We don't have
reusing.
it's a good way. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, we are taking that plastic bag, but it's not making its way back into the landfills because
Exactly.
we
Yeah. Yeah.
I still have bags from 2019
Wow.
just sitting in
That's
my.
amazing.
I don't know why they're there. It's
Yeah.
just it's just a behavior that got incorporated growing up in India,
Right. Right.
and so
Yeah.
yeah, there are, and that is probably something that there's probably cross cultural lessons that are out there that can be
Right.
incorporated in different societies because yes, it's called single use plastic, but I can assure you most Indians don't look at it as a single use plastic. It's a bag that's there, and then when you have guests coming over and you want to give them something away, you put it in that bag and give it to them. And
Exactly.
if chances are they're also going to keep that bag and then use it to pass it forward. So
I know, right?
there's
Yeah.
opportunities there, and yeah,
There are
maybe
actually. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Sorry, go
think
ahead.
every Indian household has that, the drawer in the house or
A
somewhere
bag
in the
of bags.
closet where all, yeah, it's just for the bags. Or there is like a bag of bags, exactly. Yeah. So it's there. I think some of the values that come from India, or India doesn't have, that the use and throw culture. I think it's on the rise, but it's still controllable. It's not as bad as it's in this part of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That is something that I've noticed across the developed world is there's more of a single use attitude versus
Yeah.
in the I don't want to use the term developing world, but because I hate
Yeah.
it, but because every country has its own way of operating, and I don't think it's
Right.
fair to say developed versus developing.
Yeah.
But just the purpose of just
Hmm.
connect those two. So I have a
Yeah.
question. Like
Sure.
hopefully this episode has gotten some people years up in terms of sustainability. And what are some ways that you think people can dip their toe, especially in North America, where it's more of a use and throw, recycle if you can, if you can't recycle, whatever. In that kind of a mind space and attitude, what are some of the low lift, easy ways that people can start doing things that reduce their carbon footprint, so to speak?
Hmm. Yeah, I think great question. So I would probably start with, something that you mentioned. It's not about being perfect. So a lot of us are like, either I am like sustainable, ethical, conscious, or I'm not. There is no middle ground. I think
Yeah,
that's where you should start with, and probably go easy on yourself. And I've learned it hard, over the last few years. I think at one point I had become a purist, and I started questioning a lot of things, and it does impact you and the people around you, and your relationships, or your social circles, your immediate ones. So that's not good. I mean, you won't reach anywhere with that. So I've learned it the hard way, and I would ask people to go easy on themselves, because at the end of the day, again, you're part of the system, you cannot change it. So whatever you can do by being within the system, do that. uh,
Right.
some of the I think the highest, or if you want to I would say the two most important ones that I feel that people can do. And it's not about, so your question was more about, getting started, but I would like uh, probably start with the most impactful ones if you want to do something. So the most impactful ones are, first, switching to a job where you can do, where the work is helping the planet or humanity. That is the most impactful work, but again, you can't do it like right away. And the second one is looking the way how you bank. So a lot of the fossil fuel projects, or projects that are impacting the planet in a negative way, are being funded by banks. So it's your money that is eventually funding bad projects. So if you can think of ways, or there are actually like cleaner banks out there, or cleaner savings accounts out there in each
Yes.
country. So those are the two like very big impactful ones. But if you're just getting started on the journey, small steps, man. What can you do in your country? Can you uh, take those, like you mentioned, reusable bags? That's a good one to start with. uh Public transport, if it's not like taking 5x more time than taking a cab. I think it doesn't work well in North America. Depends on where you are staying. Like if you are in the core of the city, then public transport might be good. But sometimes it's like, a bus would take me an hour to reach somewhere where a cab would take me 10 minutes, and obviously, like, time is the key there. So if you can, then yeah, why not? uh have conversations. I think that's important. And I think that was, like you mentioned, those stories that I've been writing give you hope. A lot of people have kind of reached out to me and told me that a great way to have conversations for them in their circle is start with positive stories. Not really talk about the problem, but say, hey, have you heard of this cool startup in this part of the world that is doing something great? And you start on a positive note, and then you can move to the problem. So at least have those conversations. uh food waste is the low hanging fruit when
Yeah.
it comes to how you can impact. So the thing with food waste is, when you are not consuming something on your plate and throwing it away. So one is all the resources that have been used to grow, transport, sell the food, bring it to your place, cook it, put it on your plate, have been wasted.
Yeah.
And if it's not being composted well after it is disposed of, then it would end up in a landfill and would really release methane, which is like 80 times more potent than uh, carbon dioxide. So you're like wasting a lot of resources when you are like wasting food. So that's
That's
it. That's a very low hanging fruit. Yeah, yeah,
because I agree with you on the food waste, and I absolutely hate wasting food. But I've always looked at it as, oh, I bought these onions and now I'm not using them. But you're so, I like the fact that you added, and this is now going to be something that plays in my mind. Is it's not just the onion; it was grown, transported, made it to the store, and then
right.
gas, everything, and that
Everything.
definitely
Yeah,
adds a lot more, um,
yeah,
lot more intensity to
right.
letting even one scrap go. So I think for me this has definitely been a big takeaway from this
Yeah,
conversation. Be more mindful on that. But yeah, you're right. You're right. Food waste is definitely a big one, and it's better for your wallet.
yeah.
Like if you're
Yeah,
not
it is.
wasting food.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, yeah. So I think a lot of again, so when it becomes personal, yeah, you would, make all the effort to bring a change. So yeah, it's it's good for your wallet, good for the planet. Like, it's like saving the planet on an auto mode.
Exactly. Yeah. The
Yeah,
more we can, and you're so right. Like the more we can automate these kinds of things, the better it
yeah,
is for everybody. And
right,
I love that you said that you need to introduce people to these concepts and to these companies in a positive light, because
yeah,
you can't shame someone into changing their behavior. It doesn't work.
no,
It's
it
just going to
doesn't.
have them double down and be like, okay, now watch me, because I'm very much like that. If someone tells me, by the way, this
Mm,
thing that you do sucks, I'll be like, now watch me do it even more
yeah,
just to piss you
yeah,
off. But
exactly.
versus, hey,
Yeah, yeah,
you can base X activity with
right,
this, and
yeah,
it's whatever, it's all the good stuff, then I'm listening. So I love that.
right,
I think that is a way. And I will say, like, I've been following you for a while, and uh, I've seen that change in the tone of your
yeah,
social posts, because I remember there was a time when it used to be, if you consume one, I don't know, I remember it was like 1 pound of beef equals X
right,
liters of water, so and so gas.
yeah,
Do you really want to eat it? And
yeah,
I was like, I feel bad about this, but I'm still gonna eat it.
right,
So it didn't do anything to move it, but
yeah,
versus saying, "Hey, look, this is cassava extract, and
hmm,
this replaced packaging, which leads to a
hmm,
10% reduction in
hmm,
greenhouse gas." Then I'm dialed in, because I'm like, "Oh wow, okay,
hmm,
I
hmm,
can I can invest in this packaging which does the job."
right,
And
hmm,
I saw that change happen across your social
hmm,
posts. So I'm guessing that's
yeah,
part of the journey, and you've discovered that. But so
right,
on that, I'm curious, like,
yeah.
did you see a change in interactions on your social feed between between the negative tone versus talking about the positive? Hey, we're winning this fight.
There have been, yeah. I mean, it's a good point, and thank you for that feedback. I think I've never that switch has happened, but I, never went back to those posts and saw them from this angle. I do go back to my old posts sometimes. There's a lot of
Yeah.
cringe involved with that. Like, what was I thinking, and why did I write that? But
No, hey,
I
listen.
think if
No one should be afraid to be cringe, because that's how
yeah, yeah,
we put ourselves there, and we learn and we grow.
exactly. Yeah, and I've realized, like, if you cringe at your old content, that means you're growing. So, so it's a positive
Yeah,
sign.
that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, now I think earlier, uh, I used to talk, at least on the social media, more about the problems. And then, yeah, I think the kind of comments or DMs that I got was, yeah, this problem is happening. We have seen that as well. This is even bigger in our country. I don't know why no one is doing anything about it. I agree with you. We need to do something about it. And then that's it. Like, it ended there. But now with the solutions part, like, it's very interesting. Like, most of the comments and DMs that I get is, hey, this is a great solution. Do you know about something similar in my country? That is the
Hmm,
most common comment that or DM that I get, Oh,
really.
nice packaging solution. Do you know of someone in this country that is building something similar? I'm like, wow, this is exactly, what would kind of motivate people to look beyond the usual. Yeah.
So if there's any potential budding entrepreneur listening, you might want to go through Naman's content, and you might find an alternative that doesn't exist in your country, and that's an
Yeah.
opportunity to launch your company in the clean tech space. That's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's
Yeah, that's
potentially there's a
it is.
potential landmine of opportunities in this space for people that want to get started. And it's in your, I don't mean for this to sound like a plug for your content, but I
Yeah.
just like all the stuff you've put out, and there's so many ideas and opportunities there, which, one, there are people already working on it, and two, if it doesn't exist in your country, you can do it. And even if it does exist in your country, competition is good. It
Yeah.
helps us
Yeah. I
find.
mean,
It's the pie is
yeah.
very small, right? So more people coming
The
in
pie is
means
small.
only size of the market.
Exactly, exactly. There's like this huge scope to increase the pie in this space. And yeah, I mean, if you come across a great idea, and if you want to replicate it in your country, even if it exists, like you mentioned, do it. Like, you would find people, who would be ready to invest, buy, or just, be a cheerleader for your brand. So yeah, I think there is still like a lot of scope in this field in each country that you can start. And uh, yeah, I mean, I get a lot of ideas from, by posting these stories. If I post something, there are a lot of people who ask me that if there is something similar in our country. But on the other side, there are a lot of people who suggest me also, oh, we have something similar in our country as well, like you might want to have a look at it. And that just goes into one of my Notion boards where I'm building this brand database. Okay, I have to write about this startup as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a great ecosystem to be in.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, I mean, if there are people that are getting into this space and have launched companies and need help with their content,
Yeah.
there's you.
Thank you. Yeah.
That is no, honestly, this has been super super interesting, and I, I this is one of those conversations that I correlate to my visit to the Air and Space Museum in
Hmm.
Ottawa. So I'm a big aviation enthusiast. Like, I love
Yeah.
this kind of stuff. And in the museum, it basically had the first ever a model of the first ever aircraft flown in
Hmm.
1903, and
Hmm.
all the progress we've made up to now, we're
Right.
in. And when you look at it, it's only 120 years. It's not been that long,
It's not
and
been that long.
progress that we've made because of just human innovation, people constantly pushing the bar. And I came out feeling like, yes, in the day-to-day things seem like they aren't getting better, but they are. We're just not realizing it. And until you zoom out and see how much
Yeah.
things have progressed, there's so much
Right.
happening. And that's how I feel every time I read your posts. I'm like, okay, you know what, yes, Twitter is full of all the bad things going on and Elon Musk, but
Hmm.
uh, there's so many good things happening, and that's not necessarily going viral because
Yeah.
it's not doom and gloom.
Right.
Two,
Yeah.
it's not getting picked up as much as, because at the end of the day, mainstream media is incentivized to
Hmm.
talk about stuff.
Right.
So that's not making its way out there. But thanks to the internet, uh,
Yeah.
these the good news still has a fighting chance.
It has.
And
Yeah. Yeah. It has.
the truth is, there are a lot of good things going on, and people like
Yeah.
you are definitely doing the work in bringing those stories to light. Because one is, of course, there's people who do the work, but you need people to go ahead and tell those stories so that other people come to know about it.
Right.
And so you need to know that the work that you do is very very important.
Thank
it's
you.
it gets me feeling better about the
Hmm.
world in a
Hmm.
time everything seems to be going to shit. um,
Yeah.
it's not as bad out there. There are people doing the work that it takes to make the world better.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, so how do people connect with you, Naman? Because I feel like if there are more than four listeners, they will want to follow you and get your stories and access that database of content.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been writing this newsletter, Not My Problem, for the last 2+ years now. There are like 100 plus editions. The website is notmyproblem.earth. You can go and subscribe there, and every Friday you would get a couple of stories and positive climate news in your inbox. So that's one. Trying to be active on LinkedIn and trying to be more consistent. I think I've been writing there since I think 2020 when I started the podcast series, but I haven't been consistent. So in the past few months, I've trying to be more consistent there. My DMs are open on LinkedIn. My email ID is at multiple places on LinkedIn and social media and on my website. So always up for a chat, if you're building a solution or planning to build something in this field, or just want to talk about, what's happening around the world in this space. Uh, Positive or negative, any type of conversation is okay. Like, we could just sit and rant for hours as well, because there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So yeah, I mean, those are a couple of ways to chat about this space. Yeah.
Amazing. And before we wrap up, this is something I want to do going forward is
Sure.
if you could go back in time and tell 20-year-old Naman, um, it probably shows that we're getting old, but like go back in time for
Yeah.
20, what would be your piece of advice?
uh I think it's kind of not related to sustainability, I suppose, but
Yeah, definitely. Just like what
not
you would tell yourself. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, experiment more, I would say. Be less scared. I think I could have uh, I did move a lot of times out of my comfort zone, but I could have done it better. So do that. uh, I would say form relationships, because I think you don't realize that you know you move away from some of your closest friends because of different reasons, but at the same time you have the opportunity to bring in more people in your network. And in the last few years, like, whatever uh, I have achieved, or uh, whatever paid gigs I have got, whatever work I have got, it's all been through my network. Like, the
Mhm.
job that I was doing for the last 2 years, my boss never asked for my CV. Like, I had a CV less interview. He didn't know what I did before it. It was just through, someone asked me to get in touch with him. We started speaking, found each other, interesting, because we were in the same space, and he said, let's work together. Never asked for my resume. So uh like,
That,
build a good network. It need not
mhm.
be widespread, but should be deep. Yeah.
I
That's
love that.
something that I would say. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think on a personal front, I think it's important to um keep your personal ones closer and involved in what you are doing. uh, so it's really important, and that should be a priority, because, like, in your bad days, I think only they care, no one else does.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's something I've learned the hard way as well. So yeah, those are the few things probably I would tell my younger self. Yeah.
Amazing. Love that. And hopefully, in 10 years down the road, when you play back this podcast, have you'll listen to it and be like, yeah, damn. That you advice for your older self back when
Yeah.
in 10 years. You can just pause it and be like, dude, listen, do
Right. Yeah. This is a good place to come back to after 10 years.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Naman, thanks so very much for agreeing to be a part of this. I'm a big fan, and hopefully, if we have more than four listeners, they'll like okay. Whoever listens to the episode will absolutely agree with me on the fact that you're awesome and you're doing very cool
Thank you.
things. And I hope this episode explodes for whatever
Hmm.
reason and leads to more and more people subscribing to notmyproblem.earth. Um, Fantastic website with a lot of resources, lot of good content that if even if you're feeling hopeless, just I encourage you to go read those newsletters, because you'll come out saying, okay, things are not that bad. There are good people out there
Yeah.
fighting, doing the work that is needed to make the world better.
Thanks, man. I mean, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for you've been a great support all throughout, and means a lot. I mean, it's I don't think last time uh, I don't think I had a conversation in at least in the recent past where I was given the opportunity to talk so much about climate change. People are, there are fewer people out there who are like interested than being interesting. I think a lot of us try to be interesting than be interested.
That's
So
such a
and
point.
yeah, so it's hard to break into like any conversation and talk about climate change. So I'm really glad that I got this platform to at least talk openly about it. But great questions out there. And for anyone who is listening, I'm sure we would get more than four listeners for this one.
I like to
And
set expectations really low, then everything's a bonus.
oh yeah, that feels nice. But yeah, I mean, it's a great platform that you're building, and I think we mostly talk to people who have achieved something in life and they have made it big and all. But these are like there are a lot of hidden small stories here and there, and I really appreciate you bringing them out.
I wouldn't call them small, but yeah, they're
We
definitely
wouldn't
hidden.
call them. Okay.
They're big
Okay.
stories, they're
It's
just
called
hidden.
big stories just hidden. Yeah.
But awesome. Thanks so much, Naman. It's been a
Awesome.
pleasure talking to you. And
As well.
anyway, I'll be on Twitter and LinkedIn commenting and retweeting everything you put out, because I think
Thank you.
it's all very good content, and more
Means a
people
lot.
need to see it. Awesome.
Means
Take
a
care,
lot,
man.
man. You too. Thanks.